Today's episode is sponsored by Zola. A different kind of advertising experience built with wedding pros and for wedding pros is here and growing fast. Your couples already love Zola, so stay tuned to find out why you'll love them too. Hey, it's Andy. So, in last week's introduction, I brought up how I was feeling somewhat creatively bored. And so I talked about how I was going to start shaking things up. Well, I did something really stupid. Well, oops, let me correct my framing of the situation. I created an opportunity for a massive amount of growth as well as a good, healthy dose of fear. What did I do? I signed up to take a comedy class, which, after only 4 sessions, culminates in what they term a graduation. And no, it's not as simple as wearing a cap and gown and walking onto a stage to receive a rolled up blank piece of paper that signifies the diploma we will later get in the mail. But this graduation ceremony consists of performing 5 minutes of stand-up comedy to our friends and family. Now, I've been thinking of dropping out of this course even before it begins. Here's the funny thing. I've spoken thousands of times. Thousands. I mean, I've been 27 years in my band, more than 30 years. I started in my band when I was 15. I've been giving presentations since I was 22, et cetera, et cetera. But this is different. So while I've thought about dropping out, now that I've done a second stupid thing, and that's talking about it on this show, because obviously now how can I not do it? So I'm committed. So I'll let you know how the process goes. I start the classes in around a month. So moving on, last week's episode, if you missed it, was a brand new interview with Rishi Patel, the popular CEO of HMR Designs. Today's guest is Jennifer Zabinski, founder and CEO of Jay-Z Events. Jennifer has been named by Vogue and Brides in their listings of the best wedding planners in the world. Martha Stewart Weddings and Harpers also named her a top planner. And her company is a full-service event planning firm that's worked around the world. Jennifer first appeared on the Wedding Biz in episode 96, which was released in October of 2018. Be sure to check that out to get her whole backstory if you haven't yet. And today, we talk about her production of Serena Williams' wedding and the business she started during the pandemic. We also talk about what she does to feel grounded, inspired, and to keep herself from burning out, and so much more. Enjoy this conversation with Jennifer Zabinski. Hey, Jennifer, it has been too long. It's been like 4 years. It's amazing. I'm so glad to have you back on again. Welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be back.
And you know, right away, what I'm thinking, what I'd love to know is that, I mean, generally speaking, we're, pretty much past the pandemic. It was a rough 2.5 years or so. How did you come out of it in terms of your perspective on your business and even personally, like how you may have changed as a result of what we went through?
Well, I don't know if you know, but during the pandemic, I was actually very restless in terms of creativity and energy and going from, 100 miles an hour to stopping, and was able to partner with one of my colleagues, Olivier Chang, and we founded a company called Destination Hampton, which kept us quite busy. And what it was a home entertaining box that got delivered to people's homes. And it wasn't just food. We layered in all sorts of experiential senses in terms of we created playlists, we created tabletop, and we were able to transport people through all of those senses to different locations since they were not able to travel. So we were able to do Mediterranean, Greek, 4th of July. And it was so well received that coming out of the pandemic, we were able to keep it going into just people really enjoyed entertaining at home and around the table. The numbers of how many people sat around that table increased, but in terms of the experience that we delivered, people really enjoyed. And so that was something that out of the pandemic something that came out of the pandemic, and also just was really rewarding during a time where you had to really do some inner soul searching to find things to feel good about. And one of the comments was from an 80-year-old woman that said that she looked forward to us releasing a new location every couple of weeks. And that's what kept her strong. And I think those are the types of things, as people in the events industry that have a lot of, creative juices and love to see people entertain, was something that I felt tremendously proud of. And it was a way that kept people relevant. It kept people, for Olivier, his wait staff, it kept them, able to deliver things, and people who were, kept people busy in his kitchen. And for us, stationers and things like that, we were able to keep them busy with developing things. So it just was very rewarding.
Yeah, what a great idea. And of course, how ironic in terms of what it took in order for you to get to the point of having that idea. But, also, I recall during your first interview on the Wedding Biz that you make it your business to learn each and every component that goes into an event so that you can give directions confidently. And again, this was back in 2018. Has anything changed, Jennifer, like significantly in your style since that time, now that we're back into events and normal kind of life? Has anything changed about your style?
No, I feel like my style has actually prepared me for some things that have become a result of the pandemic. And I think, and as you know, I do a lot of work internationally, and just the labor shortage that is hitting our industry, not just stateside, but globally, has really afforded me, because sometimes what you're dealt with is a limited amount of people who are, whether it be a lighting company or a hotel company, you're dealing with such a limited staffing, and sometimes limited in terms of their knowledge or experience. And so knowing kind of from the ground up how and what goes into different events has really afforded me well over the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's great. And, I was also thinking that as a planner, who is bringing on very high level designers and other team members, you have to combine talents for each particular event. And I equate it to what I do with my music and entertainment, where I have to mix the right musicians and the right entertainers with each other so that I get a certain final overall product. It's like a chemical equation. And like, for example, the Beatles, who had incredible individual who had their own sound, and later they each individually had success, but the combination of that team was like nothing still. I mean, after all these decades. So I wonder, how do you look at putting together a team for an event? Because I believe that that's your secret sauce.
I always say when I'm speaking to clients, is my biggest role is being that curator of talent, because someone can be extremely talented. However, it might not be the right fit, not only for the client, first and foremost, but also for the team that I'm assembling. And depending on where I am in the world, those teams really are, and how they interact is, as you said, the secret sauce to the success of the event, because I'm right now leaving to go to Argentina to produce a very large event. And, it's a combination of bringing people in from the States as well as using local talent, and how I look at that and how I layer in kind of underpinning so that there is the scaffolding layers that you're able to then, bring together, that the ultimate, group is so strong that you're able to handle some of the unknowns. And so, that looks very different if you're walking into a ballroom in New York City than if you're on an island. We were just chatting about Necker Island. If you're in Necker Island, like, those are two different skill sets and teams that I assemble.
So so I understand you obviously you get people also from the region you're going to. Do you tend to use a lot of the same people from the States, from the mainland, or are you also mixing that team up depending on where you're going?
It's a little bit of both. I, work, I think, with some of the the talent that I bring in and tend to work with, my philosophy and my whole curation is always working with collaborators. And for me, someone could be super talented, but not necessarily great at collaborating. And that doesn't detract from his or her, ultimate finished product, but the process getting there looks very different. And inherently, when you're taking someone overseas from the States, they need to be a collaborator because there are language barriers. There's, different currency. There are things that are not necessarily hidden costs, but just cultural ways of negotiations. And with one culture, they'll be like, it's no problem. It's no problem. And then you get there and it ultimately is a problem. And then flip side on another culture, they'll be like, no, 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 up front. And then once they respect you or know that you understand what goes into it, then they slowly work off of no into yes. And so it's just, when I look at who I'm bringing on, they need to appreciate that process, because if not, it's going to not be a fun process if you don't enjoy that collaboration and some of the unexpected. I still love going to a place I've never worked before, in a culture I've never worked before, and really learning. And to me, if I'm not learning on each and every event, then I want to retire, because to me, the part of the drive is the knowledge that you gain, and not only for myself, but for my team.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that. That's, it's interesting. I'm kind of in a point, I've been there for maybe a year now in my career, where I feel like I need to do something added, something new, just to help myself feel, that growth and that, that self-development. I mean, I'm doing a lot personally in my personal life, which I think is going to extend into the business life. But I completely agree with you that you don't want it to get stale. You got to find ways, and gosh, going to a different location. I mean, I think, boy, that's especially some of these small islands, where they just don't have all the expertise or the equipment, and you've got to figure it out. I mean, that seems like the biggest challenge to me, but you enjoy that.
I love it. And, I think that's something you asked earlier, what came out of the pandemic for me. And I think that, as I said earlier, years ago, my team is so important to me. And I think for us, we're still together through all the, I didn't lay anyone off, or, thankfully. But I think for us, we still I think it's so important now, especially, to feel fulfilled with what you do, and to gain some knowledge, and to gain some inner, strength from what you're doing, and letting yourself really appreciate that. I think that people have, that's why I think we're in such a labor shortage. People in the pandemic really said, you know what, I don't really enjoy what I'm doing,
right,
and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think now more so than ever, you want to feel fulfilled. And that's so important to me, and that journey, and that I love to learn. And so for me, that is something that keeps me excited every day.
Yeah. Well, coming back to the team part of this. So I know obviously everyone's important. They all have a very important role, but I would think that the designer is a very key element to help create and execute your vision. What do you look for in a designer?
For me, when I'm looking for designers, I really, this is something I want. The next best thing. I look to people who not only look to events for inspiration, but are really looking to interiors and travel and fashion and food, that, are looking at those areas for inspiration, not what is the latest in the event world, but really what's the latest in the world of interiors and architecture, what's the latest in food design, what's the latest in fashion, and really looking for that as their inspiration. Because my clients that I tend to gravitate towards, and they tend to gravitate towards me, are not really looking for, creating this temporary flash. They want it to be authentic to how they live their lives and who they are as adults and individuals. And really, it's an extension and an elevated extension of how they decorate their home, where they go on vacation. It really has to feel authentic to their being. And so for me, when I'm looking for designers, they're looking at those type, like I always say, I don't want to know, like, don't pin this from Instagram from an event that you've seen. Like, tell me where you like to eat, where you like to travel, where you like to shop. All of those things to me need to be part of what gets the design process going. And so those are the types of designers I look to work with.
With Zola, as wedding pros, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. List your business for free and get pre-vetted leads from the site with one of the fastest growing communities of engaged couples. Zola does things differently and believes in empowering you to get more control of your business. With no required subscription, transparent pricing, and a pay-to-connect model, Zola lets you choose when and how you pay for leads. Get the flexibility you need to succeed and focus on what really matters, growing your business and serving your couples. Join Zola today and experience the difference for yourself. To create your free listing and get your first few connections for free as well, go to zola.com/Andy. That's ZOLA.com/Andy. You mentioned, talking about your clients and how an extension of how they live. One of the high-profile weddings you worked on, one of your high-profile clients was Serena Williams' wedding. Can you tell me about that process?
Sure. I'm fortunate that we were just able to do her niece's wedding at her farm in Florida. And so knowing the family collectively was so helpful in planning her niece's wedding as well. And I think when we were planning the wedding for Serena, she totally embraced who she is and what she's inspired by, and her loves. And for her, the world of Disney is something that she loves and loses herself in and is very inspired by. And so we really started from that love of Disney and the different movies and musical scores, and really look to see how can we bring that into the ultimate fairy tale, which is your wedding. And it was so authentic to who they were. And she doesn't mind surprise. And, her husband surprised her with a carousel. We did a whole reveal and kabuki drop, and there was this life-size carousel in the location. And so again, they really embraced who they are as a couple and their loves. And really, we were so fortunate to create, fantasy into reality. And it was so memorable and still one of my favorite weddings that we've planned and produced.
Do you feel a whole different level of, let's say, pressure, stress when you're dealing with this high profile of a client, when you know that it's going to be getting a lot of publicity and this could, you already have a stellar career, but this could take it to yet another level. What is it like to work on that kind of an event?
I think it's so individual to who the client is in terms of what gives me stress. I don't necessarily, like, the process could be stressful based on how they process decision-making, how they process being in the spotlight. Those are some of the things that, because you can't control I think we're all a little bit of controlling personalities in the events world.
I would say so.
And so, yeah. And so when there are things that are out of control that you cannot, help someone process things better or letting go, those are things that cause me stress, because I can, take them through and what the process is and help them try to get comfortable with the process. But sometimes inherently to who they are, they just can't process, and so those are the things we're always, part therapist and part planner, which is very true. And so sometimes it's hard getting them through that journey, where Serena was such an amazing client because she really enjoyed the process, gave the idea, and then also trusted the team that we assembled. And so she was open to being surprised. She was open to letting go. And those are things that, you can't sometimes give to a client as much as you try to lead them there if they can't do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're saying about being open and being open to surprise. You've been doing this a long time, and, we're talking about stress and stuff like that. What do you do yourself to stay grounded and inspired? And do you ever get burnt out? I mean, with this, I mean, where are you at with that? Being grounded, being inspired, and how you continue to stay interested in this and passionate.
I think I'm super fortunate that I have a husband and children that keep me grounded and help me let go. And we've always, I took 3 days off with both of my children, and I've always expressed to them it's the quality of time, not the quantity of time, because throughout my career, I was raising children. And so it doesn't take long, luckily for me, to let go, so I can be super stressed. And if you give me 24 to 48 hours, I can be in a different headset. So that's really, they balance me. And, I've always been into fitness, and that's something that I always say, is my quiet time and my time for me. And I do it every morning. And that's something that just gets me ready for the day. And I also have 2 big dogs that I love, and taking them for a walk and just being playful with them. I feel like a new person after a very long day, just hanging and playing with them, or, I feel like a new person.
Yeah. See, I like how you're talking about having something in the front of the day and something toward the end of the day. It was like, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, I was going through a real rough time with something, and my brother had said, I used to work out like at 5 p.m. He said, you should wake up and do it immediately. And I was like, what, are you kidding? Get up that early to work out? And Jennifer, I mean, I found out, like you're talking about, helping to keep grounded and all, getting the body moving, and working out, whatever that is, right? Cardio, weights, whatever it is, first thing in the morning, to me, always resets me. If I wake up with any anxiety, which is, if I'm going to have anxiety, I tend to have it early in the morning, it just helps to settle me down, ground me, and I'm really up and ready for the rest of the day.
I so much agree with that. And that is, I do it in the morning. And I always say, like, I do it in the morning first and foremost, because I don't know what the rest of my day is going to be like. So
that's another point, right?
That's like, I need to get it in. But I do, sometimes I wake up and it's like, you take that breath. And ironically enough, this was one of those mornings, and my daughter said, why that stress? Like, go for a walk, do something, let it go. And I did a workout like earlier than I normally did, because I woke up with that sense of,
yes,
I'm about to leave for 7 days. I have a bunch of stuff to do before I get on the plane. And, it's all of those things that you, again, are a little bit out of your control. And, after an hour of a workout, I felt like a new person, and it really, and I think that that's what, everyone should do, regardless of what industry they are in, is like, find your thing, whether it's reading, running, listening to podcasts. Like, it's just, I think everyone needs to find it and allow themselves that, like, be nice to yourself, like allow yourself that time, because it's so important.
Yeah, especially first thing.
Yeah.
What about also balance? I mean, I believe you're married. You have 2 children, if I remember correctly. And that's a struggle for anyone in a lot of careers, but certainly in the wedding industry, with the amount of days that we work, the hours, the pull on us from the clients, and if you're doing destinations, which you do, the travel. Do you feel that you have balance?
I do. I really do. I've been able to, over the years, get better at the balance. And I think that having a supportive partner is half of that equation, because I think if I was married to someone else who didn't understand that, I might say that I'm going to be somewhere and then all of a sudden I can't be. And then shifting me back to say like, okay, yesterday was a day that you didn't have that much balance. So like today, make it better, and make the attempt and for it to be a better day and a more balanced day. And I think that that's something that if you didn't have balance, I think doing this for now, I'm going on my 24th year. I think I would have been burnt out if I didn't find the balance. And so for me, I need to have that to enjoy what I do every day. And so I work harder on it and at it than most, I think, in terms of finding that balance.
Yeah, I think that, the only way to get that is to treat it as seriously as we treat all the issues in our careers. I mean, in terms of scheduling and everything, like to, if we have to, just schedule in the downtime, like put it on the calendar, plan around it. Don't let it go. I think we have to be really vigilant about that part of it so that we have that balance. And I love how you said that's what helps you not get burnt out, is having the balance. That's an interesting perspective. I like that.
And I think that that is something that, as you said, put it in the calendar. I mean, we all live by our calendars. Like I have a calendar for work. I have a calendar for home. And you need to take it seriously. Carve it out. Put it in. I have a lot of CEOs in my, for legacy clients, and they work out every day and they have family time. And I've learned from some of the best that I'm like, wow, you run X and you still work out in the morning. I've seen you walk through the door when things are like shit's hitting the fan in your industry, and you walk through the door and you're still present for your family. And I remember taking that and observing that with one of my clients and being like, that's my role model. That's who I want to be, because if he can do it, anyone can do it. But he makes the effort. He puts it in the calendar. He enjoys, coming home and letting it go. So he can get up in the next morning and be present for what's about to face him, and I think we're all, regardless of what industry you're in, I think that's, you need to just find how to work into the day and come out of the day.
Yeah,
so you're ready for the next.
Too. Yep, totally agree. Like you used your example of walking the dogs. Absolutely, end of day kind of transition to. So last question, what are you looking forward to? Like, what is really exciting for you? Whether it's short term, long term, is there anything in particular that's you're real jazzed about?
I'm really jazzed about some of the new locations that we're working in this year. Like I said, Argentina. You come out learning so much, and I think it's, for me, part of the magic of what we do is that you plan and plan and plan. You see it, all of your efforts finish up, right, and then you're on to the next. And so for me, it's not only on to the next client, but it's, okay, I'm leaving Argentina, coming to Palm Beach, and then going to Venice. All three of those locations within this month are very different. And so not only are the clients different, but what we're facing. And so to me, those types of things really get me excited. And I'm really looking forward to this year. And
yeah, that sounds wonderful. It really exciting. Is. Well, Jennifer, this has been so wonderful to be able to catch up with you. I'm so glad that we got back on the microphones here. And so thank you for taking the time. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And next time we shouldn't wait 4 years or so.
Absolutely. I agree with that for sure. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Jennifer Zabinski. Be sure to check out her website, which is jzevents.com. You can find her on Instagram at jzevents. And remember to go to zola.com/Andy to create your free listing and get your first few connections for free. Also, want to make sure you're aware of Preston Bailey's show, Stop and Smell the Roses, and also Sean Lowe's show, The Business of Being Creative. Both can be found by their show name on your cell phone's podcast app. And next week's guest is going to be Kristen Banta of Kristen Banta Events, specializing in event design, planning, and production, headquartered out of Los Angeles. And finally, if you could subscribe to the podcast so you know when new episodes drop, and also follow us, particularly on Instagram at The Wedding Biz, and we'll catch you next week.